Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The second item on the agenda, we're going to do a roll call. So we got Commissioner Brewer.
Here.
Commissioner Clement just got here. Commissioner Echegoyen,
Here.
Commissioner Mead,
Here.
Commissioner Couch,
Here.
and Commissioner Franklin. I myself am here. Okay, the third item, we're going to open it up for public comment at 5:33.
And for the record, these are public comment matters that are not on the agenda, but go ahead.
My name is Amanda Law, and I currently live in a Lemoore subdivision here in Lemoore. And my concern is we are in phase 1 of the Lemoore subdivision. There's a phase 2 that is planned. Phase 2 has had, I believe, 3 one-year extensions by now. They were approved in 2017. Houses started in 2018, and they were built out from there in phase 1. Part of phase 1, or part of that subdivision, 1 and 2, was supposed to be a traffic signal at 18 3/4 and Hanford Road for the kids that live over there. They're building houses. There's going to be families that need to get across the road. That is yet to happen. There's been multiple car accidents there. I've watched the kids try to go to and from Liberty, and they are just frogger right across that road. Excuse me. Lennar had agreed to build a park as part of phase 2. And that was one of the driving factors in us purchasing in that neighborhood was we were going to have a park. Currently, District E does not have a single park. Every other district in Lemoore has at least 1 park, if not 2, and District E has 0. This would be the 1 park that we had. And it is pushed out again to, I believe, August 2023, but they are building another subdivision by West Hills. So I'm just trying to get it on your guys' radar that we have a builder who has already agreed to build homes. It's affecting the safety of people living in the homes they've already built. We're looking at just a field full of weeds and construction barriers and C trains and porta potties. And that is our view every time we leave our neighborhood. And now they're going to be building an entire other subdivision. They have another track 935 north of ours that they want to move forward on. When I called the salesperson, they're already trying to make sales in their subdivision by West Hills. And we're still waiting and not getting what we were promised. And from a safety factor, from a recreation factor, that our kids have to load up in the car and go somewhere else to play because we sacrificed a lot size for the park. That's now an empty field. So I would just like it to be on your guys' radar that we want more housing development. Can we hold the builders accountable to finish what they started here before they start building other subdivisions and kind of feel like the wool was pulled over our eyes a little bit with these extensions? And I'm not sure what the holdup is, but hopefully you guys will be able to get to the bottom of that and figure something out to make that happen for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was very well received. We're definitely going to take a look into that. Any other items for public comment? Okay, we'll close the public comment at 5:35. Item number 4, approval of minutes for the regular meeting of December 12th, 2022. Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll approve the minutes as they're written for the November 14th meeting.
Commissioner Echegoyen makes a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clement seconds the motion. We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Brewer,
Aye.
Commissioner Clement,
Aye.
Commissioner Echegoyen,
Aye.
Commissioner Mead,
Aye.
Commissioner Couch,
Aye.
and Commissioner Franklin. I also vote aye. Item number 5, we got approval of minutes of the special meeting from January 23rd, 2023. We'll also make a move for, see if someone wants to make a motion for the approval of the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting, January 23rd, 2023.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Couch.
I'll
Do we have-
second.
Second. Thank you very much, Commissioner Echegoyen. We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Brewer,
Aye.
Commissioner Clement. Aye. Commissioner Echegoyen.
Aye.
Commissioner Mead,
Abstain.
Commissioner Couch,
Aye.
and Commissioner Franklin. I also agree. Item number 6 for the public hearing, it's going to be for the tentative parcel map number 2022 tag 03, a request by John Giovanetti to divide an existing 2.91 acre parcel into 3 parcels located at the northeast corner of 19th Avenue and Cinnamon Drive in the city of Lemoore. The project is categorically exempt from the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, California Code of Regulations, Title 14, 15315, Class 15, minor land divisions.
Good evening, Commissioners and Chairman. Steve Brandt, City Planner. As the Chair has described, this is a parcel map being proposed to divide a fairly large residential parcel into 3 parcels. And if Chris, you can start the PowerPoint. It's located on the northeast corner of Cinnamon Drive and 19th Avenue across the street from Freedom School. So the southerly end of the site had a building on that was previously used for a church. The applicant has been pulling building permits to convert the building into a residence. And has now come in and wants to divide off the property so that 2 parcels could be sold, and then those 2 parcels could be used for future residential sites. So the subdivision meets all of the zoning requirements and the conversion of the building to a residence, or the church to a residence, as long as it meets the residential building codes, which our building department is working on, that's allowed to do that type of conversion. The thing we're looking at the most with this parcel map is that 19th Avenue isn't built out along the 19th Avenue frontage. It is built out along the Bush, or that's not Bush, Cinnamon Drive frontage. So and working with the applicant on when the timing of improvements, they've agreed to put in the improvements. The issue is about the timing. So normally with parcel maps, you improve what's adjacent. If there's already existing development, you would improve along that frontage. Future development, the improvements along the frontage can be deferred until a building permit is pulled on those parcels. And that's actually one of the key differences between a parcel map and a subdivision map, is that a subdivision map, you require all the improvements before they can start selling homes. In this case, with a parcel map, you can defer it and require the improvements when the building permit is pulled. So the staff recommendation is that the improvements be made along the parcel 1 frontage. That would also require that the circle driveway be removed. It's really too close to the intersection. That's a pretty large intersection, or it's going to be once it's built out. And then there needs to be a sewer line connected to the line that's in Cinnamon Drive and go north. The water line is already in, and so there would just need to be laterals put across to parcels 2 and 3. So what we've worked out with the applicant is that the parcel 1 improvements would happen now. Parcels 2 and 3 could be deferred. It would all be designed at once so that we know it would all work together, that the storm drain would flow and everything. But the one question is they would like to not put in the sewer line with parcel one. And so staff is still recommending that it be put in now. The reasoning is if you went back and did it later, you'd have to cut into the pavement to put that line in. The manhole is right near the northeast corner of the intersection. So you'd have to go into that. So the staff recommendation is that go in. My understanding is they're gonna ask that be deferred as well. But the staff recommendation is for the conditions as they're written in your staff report and in the resolution. So but other than that, we're recommending approval. Open to any questions.
Why would they want to defer the sewer line for now? Is it a monetary reason? Do you think?
That's my understanding, but they're here and they'll
Oh,
speak to
okay.
that during the public
Okay.
hearing.
So doesn't the church already have a sewer line?
The church, yes, the church has a sewer connection
You're just talking about-
in Cinnamon.
Okay, gotcha.
So the line needs to be extended in order for parcels 2 and 3
Oh,
to have
2 and 3.
to have sewer someday.
Are you recommending 2 and 3 to be done now at this time?
No,
Just parcel.
only stub it to the north side of
I
parcel 1.
see. Just get it done.
So that
We're not cutting
you
into
get
curb
it done and you
gutter.
don't have to cut into
Yeah.
pavement that just got built.
Okay,
So that would be pretty close to 19. And be stubbed out to the borderline between 1 and 2. Is that correct?
It would stub it up to the borderline between 1 and 2, yes.
And then it can happen from 2 and 3.
2 and 3 can happen when houses get built there.
But the widening of the road of 19 would have to happen first, right?
No, they would actually, they would put the sewer line in first and then widen 19.
Right, but I mean. So 19th would not be widened until the sewer line was in 2 or 3, so we would have.
Oh,
a jag.
Mm.
between one and
the deferral of improvements would include the roadway deferral for two and 3, for the portion that's in front of 2 and 3.
Mm.
Okay.
So we'd probably stripe a transition stripe temporarily and to move people over. But the idea is that parcel 1 already has development on it, and this could be the last chance to get the improvements built.
Mhm.
It's just gonna make kind of a crazy jag down towards the PG&E yard. Between 1 and then 2 and 3 would be.
Cause don't we have something like that already there? Doesn't the street narrow down right around the PG&E yard?
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, for the commission, I believe this could be relevant to the issue of whether to defer the undergrounding or not. The class 15 CEQA exemption that is part of the approval here today, or the invocation of it, does require that all services and access to the proposed parcels to local standards are available. And so I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play in here, but I think for services, it is important that when you have this sort of division, that the services are all there.
So when it says it's available though, does that mean it's available at 19th? Or are we talking about available also means it gotta be stubbed out first?
I don't want to give,
I know. So when we say available,
I guess it's
it's how you
that's probably
interpret.
why this is your call.
Oh, okay.
Because you could argue, parcel 1 has sewer service already. It's just in a different location. We're not going to ask them to move that.
Yeah.
We just we're trying from the staff's position, we're wanting to not have to go have someone dig up part of a roadway that maybe only a year or so previous has been widened.
Yep. And I just wanted to bring that to your commission's attention. I wasn't not exactly sure where the stub out was or anything, but that is part of the CEQA exemption.
Okay.
Well, I'm good. I mean, if we could hear from the applicants. You guys have more questions for Steve? Okay. Ready to?
Good evening, gentlemen.
So we close. We're opening.
Yes.
Okay, real quick, we're opening public comment right now at 5:45.
That's me. I'd like to introduce myself by way of explaining what the project, how it was conceived and how it's being attempted to be built out. Good evening. Thank you for taking this up. The property well, first of all, the intended resident is Mr. Gonzalez, who's the head of the art department at the high school. And it's probably because he is the head of the art department that this project is going on at all. We were driving by one day. He and I coached soccer together. That's how I know him. I'm not much of an art person. But we were driving down the road one day and he said he looked at the church and he saw it was for sale and he says, boy, I'd love to do something with that. And so we looked into it, and obviously he's qualified to get a loan on the property, except that no lender will loan on a church. So we had to get it so that it was a residence, so he can get a loan and ultimately a loan for the property. So I was kind of the money guy. So I own the property as a result of that. And we've been working collaboratively with him because he wants to do a lot of the work himself. He's big on sweat equity. We got a pretty decent deal on the property to begin with. But as you know, costs, when you get into a project like this, where it's an old piece of property, you never know what you're going to run into. So the costs are more than we anticipated to begin with. So we put our heads together and said, well, we got a 3-acre parcel here. We could still have a decent sized parcel for you. And this is low density residential anyway. So we could create a couple of unique parcels within the city, with city services available eventually to them, that would be unique to the city of Lemoore, over 3/4 of an acre lot, without having to buy two. And so that's the purpose. Mr. Brandt laid it out pretty well. And the sale of those two pieces of property will go back towards the initial investment. So I'm not making anything on it. This is the deal that I made with Mr. Gonzalez originally. So whatever we can do with those two parcels as economically as possible would lend itself to making the project affordable. Without that, I don't think we would have an affordable type situation for him, and the purpose would be defeated. In that same regard, I have a question about one of the staff's recommendations about abandoning the driveway in front of the church. I mean, it's been there forever. I don't know how many years. It's a really, really old church. They didn't seem to have a problem with it before. I know it doesn't conform to what the engineers showed me as prescribed by ordinance law, whatever it is that covers it. But I know there also is factors of something they call grandfathering in the past. And I don't see why, because of its initial use and use for an extended period of time where it wasn't a problem, why it becomes a problem now. I know it's close to the intersection, but it's a 4-way stop. You don't have a flow of traffic coming through that intersection. It's one car at a time. I don't see anything bunching up there. And that seems to be what they insinuate the problem is with the driveway. Plus the fact the driveway on the south side is 21 feet wide. Well, my car is only 6.5 feet wide, and it's a mid-size SUV. You could put 3 cars in that driveway at the same time and not have a problem. And I don't expect semis are going to be pulling through there. So I don't know why that has to be abandoned. The north access to that semicircular driveway is 30 feet. Again, doesn't seem to be a problem in terms of turning radius and things like that. Plus, the building faces 19th Avenue. Its address is 740 North 19th Avenue. Okay, we got packages to be delivered. We got emergency services where you're required to have a house number on your house before you can have occupancy. That's part of the permit process. That number on the house becomes useless. It's not identifiable anymore. The guys making deliveries, do they know to go to the parking lot behind the house? Well, most people's houses don't have parking lots. Most houses don't have rear access. So would be my contention that it's necessary that we have those driveways to access 740 North 19th Avenue, or it just becomes the old church. And I don't know people putting Amazon delivery addresses as the old church. So that's my case. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, sir. Jack, go ahead.
Good evening, guys. My name is Ben Mullins with Lane Engineers. I'm the surveyor that dripped the map. The one thing that I wanted to bring up was part of condition 6, which Steve kind of brought up, was to extend that sewer line. And I've brought today, this is a city standard number ST6. I have extra copies too if anybody wants to see this. And this shows for any proposed sewer line when the 19th Avenue runs north and south, the ultimate alignment of the sewer line, according to the standard, would be 5 feet from the center line of the road. And the argument made for having the sewer line brought in at the same time as the frontage improvements was to avoid ripping up the pavement. But regardless of whether that happened before or after the new improvements, it's still going to go through the existing pavement. The existing pavement right now is 14 feet from the center line of the road, and the sewer line would be 5 feet from the center line of the road. So the sewer line is going to be going through existing pavement, regardless of whether that happened before the frontage improvements or after the frontage improvements. So I just wanted to point that out, that for that reasoning, and since they already have a sewer service, it seems like a unnecessary additional thing for them to have to do at this point, as opposed to waiting until the development of parcel 2. Once parcel 2 and 3 bring building permits to have that sewer line extended at that time, since the payment would have to get removed regardless during that time. So that was the point when I want to bring. If anybody wants this, I have some extra ones if anyone's interested in seeing the city standard, but
Sure. Please, thank you. Okay, thank you.
thank you. I thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? How about if we got questions for the applicants? Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public session right now at 5:55. Steve, yeah, if you can shed some light on this.
Sure. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I mean, he brought up a pretty good point about the build out, having to be done regardless. Was there another reason why we didn't want them to defer it?
I think and I'm having to speak for the city engineer, but I think the thinking was that they would deviate from the standard and put it where there is not pavement now, so that it could be put in first and then the pavement put in. But he is correct that, the as I said before, the manhole that we'd have to connect to is in Cinnamon Drive right now. So there will be some cutting into the pavement to get to it. I don't have a picture, but it's kind of, about 6-8 feet off of the northeast corner of the existing intersection. So in the pavement. So yeah, there will be some. What I think the city engineer was thinking is we tried to, we could deviate from the standard to, avoid as much of pavement cutting as we could.
Because eventually when those lots are developed, curb and gutter that's not there is going to have to be put in,
Mhm.
sidewalk.
Mhm.
Is the sidewalk going to have a parkway or is it sidewalk directly up next to the street? Do you know? Across from it is just sidewalk up to the street.
Yeah.
So would
and
you match that, you think?
We would probably match that, especially given that
Okay.
there's a school across the street. You usually try to put in as much sidewalk as you can right next to the curb for people are dropping off and
Yeah.
stuff.
So I don't mean to interrupt. Does anybody?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
So this is kind of embarrassing because I'm supposed to know this. Are you allowed to do one sewer tap right down the property line of parcel 2 and 3? And then when the development goes in for each one, instead of doing two separate sewer
Two
taps.
separate laterals?
Yeah, can they do one lateral,
okay.
stub it, and then 3 goes to 1 and 2? Let's say they put in a 6-inch line and
Sure.
it would be able to handle that. I know the building code says that you're not allowed to cross another parcel.
Don't like to cross property lines.
Yeah. Is
It's
that
not preferred.
not preferred? Because if there's a problem, then who
I mean, I
takes
suppose
care of it?
anything's possible.
Yeah.
Since
I
I'm
was just wondering if
since I'm a
one
planner,
sewer
not an
tap would
engineer,
do it.
anything's possible, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd have to defer to the city engineer about that.
Okay. The driveway that's in the corner there, they had a question on that.
The thinking for the driveway is that it is very close to the intersection. It was built when that intersection was much smaller. It's going to get bigger now. It'll probably have a signal someday.
Mhm.
And it's going to get smaller because the curb is going to get pushed back a bit. I don't know the exact number of
Yeah.
feet, but that is the thinking. I understand about the address. That not sure what we can do about that, but if you're wanting to do something about that, I would think at least the southerly one needs to be removed,
Yeah.
because it'd be right there at the intersection.
What are the city standards for having a driveway right next to an intersection? Is it 20 feet? What is the setback
In-
anyways?
I know I'm going off the top of my head, and I know in commercial areas, it's 150 feet.
Right.
In residential area, what we usually try to just say is you have to, because you're usually dealing with smaller lots. We
Yeah.
usually say, put it on the far side of the lot.
Away from the
as-
four-way,
as far away as you can.
especially a busy street.
Yeah. Again, it's an existing condition, so we,
If that
Do
was
what
a
we can.
straight approach driveway, would there be an issue?
if it was
Say
a
the
straight
garage
approach,
was right there where the southern
I don't-
driveway is at.
I mean, I don't know so much that the reason is that it's a circle drive, other than that there's 2 drive approaches. Again, it's the closeness to the intersection.
So if that circle drive were not there and the residence is 749, whatever the number is, where would the driveway
If it was
be facing 19?
If it was an empty site and somebody was wanting to come build something, we'd want them to put it as far away from the intersection as they could.
Side,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But there would be a driveway for
True.
mail delivery, package delivery. et
True.
cetera, et cetera. There's gotta be access and egress somehow,
Mhm.
somewhere. Okay. So if the condition stands that that circle driveway be eliminated or part of it, what are the options that the developer has for having access to that property off of 19th? Or is that just up to him to figure?
Well, the recommendation that's in the staff report is that there would be no access off of 19th for
No
parcel 1.
access at all?
Correct. If
I
you
don't
want
even-
to change that, then
I
we
see.
need to change that condition before you approve it.
Whether the circle driveway, where it's replaced, I think there has to be access off of 19. I can't think of anything else in the city where you located on Apple Street, but there's no way to get to the house from Apple Street.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm looking at, so the possibility of just blocking off the south end and only having the northern end, and I'm looking, so it's a semicircle now. So if I pull in and park, the only way I get out on the 19th is to back out into the street. And I'm thinking that's more dangerous than having a driveway closer to the intersection. Just my thinking, huh?
I certainly want to approve anything that would not want to approve something that would require backing out on the 19th. Run across the street from the school within 50 to 100 feet of Cinnamon, which I think is going to become more and more busy as development occurs. And I think that definitely will be a light there at some point.
So if there is a light, then it's not a four-way, and traffic coming north and south, let's say coming from the south to the north, and keep their regular speed, right? If it's a light eventually.
But I would agree, you would want somebody to pull out through the, if you have a circle driveway like it is, or however it's set up, you would want them to be able to pull in and face out the other end as opposed to backing out. Because if it's flow through traffic at a green light, you'd rather be pulling out into traffic as opposed to backing into traffic.
And by all means, concur.
Yeah. As busy as that road is, 19th Avenue, it's nowhere to have a conventional driveway where you gotta back out in the street. I would not want to have to try to do that. I have a friend that lives on South 19th Avenue, and he tries to back in his driveway so that when he leaves, he can get out, because it's almost impossible. I would
Yes.
suggest that we think about allowing them to keep the semicircle driveway as is.
Okay,
I think that's good. I guess, yeah, we'll hear other thoughts on that. And then what do you guys think about the deferment of that line?
Well, one question I got real quick is, as I see there's a garage off of Cinnamon. But going back to the issue with the address, if you have deliveries or somebody coming there, they're going to recognize it off of 19th. But I'm curious, what is the garage at the back of the property off of Cinnamon? Is that by that parking lot?
Correct, yes.
So are they going to utilize that? I'm
That's
assuming
my
they're gonna-
understanding. So they'll utilize it as a garage, yeah.
And
So
there
the
is a
drive-
driveway
The
up-
driveway, other than the driveway would just be for parking on the driveway, or as they said.
But there's
for
an approach on
deliveries.
Cinnamon
Yeah,
to get to that garage.
Yeah.
Correct? As part of the sewer, I'm okay with leaving it as is. If they gotta tear it up now or tear it up later, I don't think it would be that big a difference. They could say, oh, they're gonna put it near the edge of the street where it would be minimal, and then later on, somebody decide, oh, no, we can't do that. I'd hate to not, or to hold back and make them put that in, because it's gonna go on the side of the street and then find out later that that didn't end up working and that they put it in the center anyway.
Well, thank you, Steve. Is
Okay.
any other questions for Steve?
I don't think so. Not me.
I'll stay up here. So once I find out where you're at, I can help you
yeah.
redefine the conditions.
Okay.
That was.
Yeah. So we're looking, we can understand, I think, and I'm just throwing this out there, I think a sewer tap is 8,000 around right now. That's what I think I was seeing that they were costing. I could be maybe on the high end. So if if the city is recommending that that be put in on parcel 1 and 2, I mean, that's an expensive $15 or $1,000 for them. I understand.
Let me clarify.
Go ahead.
What we're asking is that the line just be extended to the north boundary of parcel 1. With no taps or laterals. And then it would be extended when 2 and 3 develop. It would be extended again. When
But
2
out.
and 3 from the south end of parcel 2.
Oh,
So it's-
okay.
It's
Okay.
more of just to get all the improvements along parcel 1.
I thought you were
Build
wanting a tap put in at parcel 2 down the middle of Cinnamon.
No,
And a tap put in at
no,
parcel.
only
Oh.
to the north boundary of parcel 1 is
So
what
there's,
we're recommending.
they're gonna tap into the sewer line. And you're just gonna run a lateral up to the north boundary of parcel 1.
Correct.
I see. Okay. Okay.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, okay, that makes a little bit. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve, for clarifying that.
I got a question. What if they sold parcel 2 and 3 before they did that?
Then it would be the responsibility of the new owner
Mhm.
when they pull a building permit.
Yeah.
So
Whoever buys those parcels, most of the cost falls under them, right?
Yeah.
The contractor, developer, or homeowner, property owner.
You guys want to enter?
which again is why there's a difference between subdivision maps and parcel maps. So that so that the current owner can sell the property as a vacant lot,
Mhm.
and then the new owner takes responsibility for the development along their frontage.
Sure, yes. Yes, please. Sure, thanks.
I just wanted to say that obviously. Not required. I just want to say, obviously it's costs. If I had 100 lots to divide the cost over, it would be a different story. But because the full cost is the burden of the existing, that's why we're asking for the exceptions.
I have a question. Do you think possibly it makes the lot a little bit more valuable when you go to sell it if it's already had this work done?
6 one, half to the other. You got to disclose that, obviously. It's going to be a negotiating item on the
Yeah.
cost of the lot.
Have you figured out or asked or got bids for a cost on that?
I've got a couple of estimates, yeah, based on obviously comparable sales.
Mhm. Am I okay to ask what those estimates were?
Well, I would price them around 150 each.
No, I'm sorry about the sewer line work.
Oh, no.
No, I don't
know
care about
that
the
yet.
lot. Sorry,
Don't know
that's
that
none of my
yet.
business. Huh?
Don't know that yet,
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
because we have to pull elevations,
Hmm.
because it's my contention right now that any water that builds up on that street's going to run to that manhole right in front of the driveway.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm an old farmer. My eyeball usually says irrigation wise, it's pretty true. I'll go out there and put a marble in the street tomorrow. See what happens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to answer your question about the cost of the extending the sewer main, I did talk to one of our engineers in the office just to get a rough estimate, because I was kind of curious what the cost of that was too. And he just, back of the napkin calc, he was thinking like $25,000 to $30,000 to extend the sewer to the north end of the parcel, which
Mm,
is part of the argument, is since it's not serving them, it'll be served for future parcels. That's why they're trying to defer that cost to the people who buy the next parcels.
Would you guys like to entertain a motion with any conditions?
I want to ask Steve one more question. So just for argument's sake, let's say that we abandon the idea of extending the sewer line. So
You mean defer it?
defer it, yeah,
Okay.
not, I'm sorry, but defer it.
Yes.
So what happens when they sell parcel 2 and parcel 3 and somebody wants to develop that? Who pays? Who
When
pays
the
them?
new owner of parcel 2 or 3
Has-
comes in for a building permit, we'll tell them that they're responsible to extend the line
Okay.
from Cinnamon.
In this case, we're asking him to extend the line even though it won't serve him at all, correct?
Correct. It won't serve parcel 1.
Right.
He
Yeah, that's
own-
what I
he-
meant. That's
He
what I meant.
currently owns parcel
Right.
2 and 3,
Yeah,
so you can
but
make an
I
argument
meant
it
parcel
is serving
1.
him.
Yeah, I meant parcel 1. Yeah. Okay.
And
But-
parcel, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, in completing parcel 1, they're gonna have to do. They're gonna have to finish the front of the property, right, on the street.
Yes.
So if they don't do the extension and later on parcel 2 and 3 get purchased and they come in to extend the sewer line after that, they have to rip all that back up.
They'll have to rip up. It'll be in the pavement, so yeah.
But they won't be picking up like ripping up curb and gutter
No, I
because
wouldn't think they'd have
they
to
don't
rip
need
up curb and
service
gutter,
to
no.
parcel 1, right?
Yeah, they would just trench the asphalt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm. Can parcel 2 and 3 be divided any more than it is already now in the future? If somebody were to buy it,
yes,
it can be.
because of their size.
Hmm. So the only way they can only divide it based off entering off 19th. So it can't make a back lot or anything like that without an easement to get back there.
Probably a few things you could do. You could put a tiny little cul-de-sac between 2 and 3 and have a few
Mm.
lots potentially.
So
But that's really not germane.
But that's, you know, that depends on if somebody thinks that that's gonna pencil.
Yeah.
no, the reason I ask is if we ask them to do a certain lateral or something like that, it may be undersized for future,
I think
right?
we'd put in the standard size, which would be just, it's because it's not really technically it won't be a lateral, it's a sewer line. So it's
Okay.
whatever line we normally put in the street.
I gotcha.
Is what we put in.
Okay. I was just wondering, what if we had them do that? Somebody comes in, buys it, does a bunch
And
of,
it'd be undersized.
and it'd be
No, it
undersized, and
would
now
be-
that was all
we'd
for
Put in
nothing.
a size that,
Would handle
No.
anything you would do in the future. I gotcha. Okay.
you guys ask good questions. Good job.
Well, we have to weigh the concerns of citizens and
Yep.
properties and money and what the city recommends, and sometimes our fellow council members might be going against what the city recommends. So, I mean, it weighs on our minds.
Yeah, you want to look at it from both sides.
Yeah.
So I look at the extension and think if we defer it, and then when he goes to sell the property, then, the property may be worth a little bit less because they're gonna have to bring that in themselves. And I'm like, well, that could be his choice.
Mhm.
If he wants to defer it, then I would be all for that.
Well, I think when we look at these conditions, deferral of that line is one thing. And I feel okay about that. Just taking it up to that point, and whoever buys 2 and 3, they're buy beware, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Do what they do in order to develop that. For me, a bigger thing has to do with that circular driveway and the potential of backing out on the 19th. That really bothers me. And then it also bothers me. You go up to that and have an immediate right-hand turn that enters the driveway. I don't think it's good practice either. That gives me cause for concern.
So I'm going to ask you guys a question. When it comes to that circle driveway, is it because you want to keep that address off of 19th? Because are you also going to utilize the parking lot that's off of Cinnamon? As a parking spot?
Well, we haven't agreed on what's gonna happen behind the.
Right.
That's, it's gonna be off the kitchen, so there's gonna be a patio and that kind of stuff.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
It seemed like.
I mean, I look at the driveway and so I know there's two approaches. And if the one is fairly close to Cinnamon, but the other one isn't that much further down from the street either. They're both real quick right turns.
Do we know if there's ever been accidents before? Right there with people coming in and out the church?
I don't know.
Church has been abandoned quite a while.
Mhm.
Since before the school was in, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I know that American's not an arterial, but if you look to the east there are 6 lots, maybe, yeah. If I'm counting correctly, there's 6 driveways over there. That's been okay. And it's not an arterial, I know that. But just thinking about the movement of traffic and it's different.
Wasn't there properties to the south on both sides of 19th that have driveways
Mhm.
up against 19th on either side of the road, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, yeah, on the southeast corner,
Yeah, I think.
Yes.
but not the southwest.
No.
No,
But
just the
you go,
southeast.
you go a little farther south and then there's driveways on the west side.
I will say it's farther back from the intersection.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
way farther back,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Can I make a correction on the map? The red line goes too far north. The property line is where that tree is.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
You're right.
Oh, okay.
okay.
Sorry about that. You're right.
I think that's the
So on
only
the
one.
tree
I think
line.
the other one is correct though, right? It stops at the trees.
Yeah, it stops at the trees.
Yeah. Okay. I've asked all my questions. So.
Commission, any thoughts on a motion?
I don't even know how to word it.
I know. I'm thinking.
Well,
Oh, your pen.
what I'd like to suggest is that we allow the deferment of the sewer line and we allow him to keep the driveway as is.
Well, I concur with the sewer line, not with the driveway.
You're saying the driveway should be moved,
Or become a single lane.
single lane
so
farther
there
away.
is- So there's not a backing out requirement on the ninth. That's the issue. That's my issue right there.
But if it was
Well-
if it was a single entry point, wouldn't you have to back out?
Yeah, you would,
When you leave.
you'd have to back out if it was a
But you
single.
would- But you would be backing out right at Cinnamon.
Yeah.
I see what you mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the north entrance to the Circle Drive looks to almost be the same distance away as the one to the southeast corner.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I wonder if the city has a standard that says, or what,
How far from the intersection?
yeah, how far from the intersection has
I
to
thought-
be.
I think
He-
the city manager's trying to look it
Didn't he
up.
just say it like? it
We
needs
think
to be
it's
on the
60
far
feet.
side of the parcel?
Yeah, the far side, but usually there's a number.
You said, Steve, you said commercial was 150.
Commercial's 150.
I believe is 60 feet.
60 feet.
60 feet. Let me see.
But not for commercial, correct?
For
Yeah,
residential.
but commercial now we have commercial driveways right next to the intersections, don't we?
Well, we also
Yeah,
update
but-
our public works standards every few
but-
years.
Yeah.
We just did a new
We-
rendition of public works standards.
Okay.
So there may be stuff that's not compliant
Yeah,
to today's standards.
we haven't done any new ones, put it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you look like
The-
some of the gas stations and things like that.
Some of the
you're-
older gas
yeah, you're
stations
right
were
there
really
on that.
close, yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So that's where I was going with that.
Got it.
That's the code for residential.
So my ideas on it are instead of saying north drive, circle drive, or anything like that, my recommendation, this is just me, that they can still keep an entrance off 19th, but it follow the city standards that they have. If it's 60 feet, 50 feet, or 40, whatever it is. And the reason they put those standards, it's always about safety. It's always about safety.
Yeah.
If this does become a stoplight in the future, which more than likely it's going to be, this is Cinnamon and 19th. You're going to have people that do not come to a full stop if it's a green light going westbound on Cinnamon, north on 19th. They will not come to a stop. And you have that driveway entrance right there at the south. So if I were to word a recommendation, to me, it would be the driveway would have to contend with current city standards of driveway entrances according to intersections.
Yeah, residential.
Residential, yeah. Are we allowed to make that recommendation?
I believe so.
Okay. But that's me. If you guys do not agree with that, that's why we're here.
Agree with that.
So if that's the consensus, what I'd do is rewrite condition number 3
Mhm.
to eliminate what's there and instead say the existing circle drive shall be reconstructed to meet reconstructed or revised
Mhm.
to meet current city residential driveway standards. And then if you want to defer the sewer line, we would say that in condition number 6. We would just add an exception.
Do you want a motion articulating?
So
You specified
if
it?
we're putting that, it would, the driveway would be revised, it could just mean that when the improvement is done up front and a curb is put where that approach is, does that cover the whole thing, or are we talking to make?
If the
make it
southerly
have-
approach is too close according to the standard, I guess we would just
Just
put,
remove the
it would-
approach.
would die, the driveway would die into the sidewalk and there would be
Yeah,
a solid curb
so they
there.
wouldn't have to do a bunch of work to the driveway then,
Mhm.
just,
No,
Just
we'd work with
removing the
them and they
approach.
could do what they want on the site
okay,
as long as the drive approaches meet the standard. If they want to add pavement so that they can do a turnaround on site, we can work with them on that.
Yeah.
yeah, because looking at it, after Commissioner Couch mentioned, yeah, it could be a safety issue,
Yeah.
maybe not right now, but it could be eventually,
Then they would keep their address off of 19th.
yeah.
Think so?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
That the motion?
Probably have to say it correctly, huh?
That's why I never made the motion.
I know that's. I
Go ahead.
I will make a motion. That's fine. If there's any other comment from the other commissioners.
It's really altering 3 and 6.
Okay.
Those 2 things, correct?
Altering conditions 3 and 6.
the rest remain the
Okay,
same.
Chris is
Correct.
bringing it up here. I think she is.
Yeah, move to adopt resolution.
Okay. I move to adopt resolution number 2023-02, approve tentative parcel map number 2022-03 in accordance with the finding conditions in the resolution. with a um, change to number 3. If I'm saying this wrong, correct me. The existing circle driveway to meet current city standards with setbacks from the intersection, which may include removal of southern driveway entrance. And number 6, to defer the sewer line placement or installation.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. Nope. Yep, it's all yours.
Commissioner Couch made the motion, Commissioner Mead seconded the motion. Commissioner Brewer,
Aye.
Commissioner Clement. Aye. Commissioner Echegoyen,
Aye.
Commissioner Mead,
Aye.
Commissioner Couch,
Aye.
and Commissioner Franklin, I vote aye.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the presentation for 2022 General Plan Progress Report.
Thank you, Steve Brand again. This document, we prepared the how the Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD. We often hear about them because they're the agency at the state that approves housing elements. They deal a lot. They deal with housing issues in the state. And then the other department, the OPR, the Office of Planning and Research, there's a law that has cities prepare what's called a general plan annual progress report. So it's basically a document that says, hey, how are you doing with implementing your general plan? And so we prepared that this year, and we're submitting it to you for any comment you might have. It's due on April 1st. We were planning on taking it to the council next week. I'm not sure if that meeting is still on or not. No, not on. So we're going to turn it in before April 1st, but we'll still take it to council. The document answers a few questions that HCD and OPR want us to answer at the very beginning. And then the bulk of the report is just taking all the policies that are in the general plan and then making a comment about each one. How are we doing? Are we following this policy? Are we still doing it? What have we done to implement it? And the focus is on the year 2022. What did you do in this year? But a lot of the policies, is when you read through it, you'll see they were one-time things, and we've already taken care of them. We did them years ago when we updated the zoning ordinance in 2012, things like that. So, so just kind of going through each of them and seeing, you know, how are we doing? And then if there's policies there's a few places where there's policies that we really haven't been working on. And so we're just kind of disclosing that and admitting that as well. So, the big question you're probably asking is, if this is an annual report, how come we haven't done it in a long time? And it's funding, other things, other priorities. And maybe one of the biggest ones is the state is starting to require that these be done for certain grant awards. So we want to make sure that we're eligible. So we put it together. I think the plan is we'll be doing it every year. They're due April 1st every year. And it should be easier next year because all the one-time comments are already written. So we'll just go back and say, okay, what did we do in 2023? So if there's anything you have a question about or a comment, we can talk about it, but it's a good reminder for me when putting it together of, you know, what's actually in the general plan and what it says. It's been a while since Lemoore updated the general plan, and so looking at it makes you think maybe these things need some adjustment. But that's my commentary.
I had a question about lot size.
Yeah,
And from 7,000 to 7,500 down to 654.
Yeah.
Whatever that may be. And And where's,
Were you at the study session? I can't remember who was at the
no,
study
no, I
session.
was not.
Okay,
I didn't make it.
okay.
But my concern is that we've got an environment in the smaller community that we tend to want to keep for better or for worse. And I see other places, I look at Hanford, where it's like 9 feet, maybe between two-story houses. It looks like a tenement
I mean,
type of thing.
it's 10 feet, I know.
Is it whatever.
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah,
And is that what we want? It doesn't make any difference what we want as a city, or is that's where we're going? And the question is, how small are we gonna get? Or are we gonna be like San Francisco, where we have walls that just touch each other? Blocks. And where are we heading there?
well, we're heading toward having the discussion this year, and we'll be discussing it, and you'll be making a recommendation to council, and they'll be deciding. I totally understand the sentiment. I hear it in a lot of the smaller communities. Unfortunately, the people at the state do think we're all like San Francisco, and they keep pushing higher densities. So we have to find a way to balance that. And
Haven't we?
but I
already-
think it's true. You have to decide what's best for Lemoore.
Haven't we already approved 5-foot side lot setbacks for 2-story homes? Or have we not? Are they still 10?
We
Was it
no, we
Lenore?
have
We
through
have.
the PUD process.
We did, okay, we
Yes.
have done that already.
That's for the
And
PD.
most
Right, right.
of them in the
Yeah.
last few years have been
Yeah.
like that. And I'll say even the smaller cities around here, it's now become 5 feet for 2 stories.
Yeah,
We had the one development that went to 4 feet. And so there was 8 feet between the homes. And that was the developer that was at the study session, and he stated they wouldn't do that again. So,
Mm,
and I've seen it now twice. I've seen it in another city. I didn't like how that one turned out either. So I don't think from where I stand as staff members and as staff in cities, I wouldn't be recommending 4 feet again. The most obvious one is the contractor's scaffolding doesn't fit in the side yard
Yeah.
when they build the house.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they have to tear down a fence just to build the house.
We're seeing in the news lately, I think it was Newport Beach and a couple of other places the state is ordering municipalities to have certain amount of new housing and stuff like that. Is that part of the general plan? Where
It's
they
part of, yes.
tell us we have to have so
So,
much? Is that part of this? And
It's
have we
part of
met
the
that?
housing element, which
Yeah.
is one part of the general plan, and the housing element is the only part of the general plan that you have to send to the state to get them to approve it.
Mm.
They don't comment on, well, they might comment, but they don't approve the other parts of the housing element, land use, circulation, open space, but housing, they have to approve it. And so you have to do it. I think the cycle is now every 8 years. And we're up this year. So
Yeah.
Kings County and the 4 cities have, for the last 3 or 4 cycles, have done a combined housing element that's run by either KCAG or the county. And they just put out the RFP to start that process. And Christie's been going to meetings for about a year, right? About that. But the reason why it's in the news is that other parts of the state, their deadline is coming due. Our deadline is not yet. It's at the end of the year. And they're either, we're hearing a lot of stories of cities either just completely missing the deadline
Or telling their sitting attorney to sue the state.
having the city council tell their staff to tell the state where to go.
Mm.
Because the state is saying, and I've seen some of the state put a huge burden on the Bay Area and the LA basin to build more housing. Like to basically they said, we want you to build housing twice as fast as you're doing it now.
Mhm.
They didn't do that to the valley. I was worried they were going to do that, but they didn't do it. They did. They're asking us to build a good amount, but not like the Bay Area. And I think I read the Bay Area's jurisdictions, which there's like 120 jurisdictions in the Bay Area once you count all the counties and all the cities within the counties. 90 of them missed the deadline.
Mm.
So it's
interesting.
it's interesting. My recommendation to Nathan is just let's not be on their radar. There's too many other
There you
there's
go.
too many other people that are on their radar.
Yeah,
Let's do what we can. And yeah,
okay.
But in the news the past week or so, there's been comments about population migration outward, primarily from the Bay Area in California and LA to other parts of the nation. And so why should the housing be double? I mean, how do you put those two things together?
well, and that's always
sense.
been, again, I'm commentating now, but that's always been the critique of the state is that everyone has always said the numbers are too high. And
Mhm.
and this round they were really high. And I don't know, they use some type of formula. I don't quite understand it, but I doubt, I think you're right. I doubt they took the out migration into consideration. But we're on what's called cycle 6. And I think I've been doing this since cycle 3. And every time the state gets a little more controlling and people are feeling it. And that's why you hear stories of councils directing their staff to sue the state.
Well, thank you, Steve. If there's no more comments on that, we can move over to the discussion for potential ordinance changes to encourage housing development.
Yeah, so I've teased it a few times, but this is really our first chance putting everything down on paper of the specific things that we'd like to look at. I'll back up. We did get a grant. It was from HCD to look at our zoning ordinance and look for ways to change it so that we could encourage more housing. Now, we can encourage more housing any way we want. And part of that is making ourselves more efficient. So when you see the first one, updating the subdivision ordinance, by having an up-to-date subdivision ordinance that the staff can use, we can be more efficient. We can get things processed faster. So it's not just changing lot sizes and setbacks. It's also doing things that change our processes. And that takes some work and some thought. And so having the grant to be able to do that is really helpful. One of the next ones on there on the list, it looks at what we call the mixed use zone. And I think I've mentioned that before. The mixed use zone sounds like it would have been a really good idea in 2012 when the zoning ordinance was put together. But we noticed nobody's built anything in that zone since 2012. So to me, that means something's not working with that zone. And so when we were given the task of finding ways to encourage more housing, looked at it and said, there's a few sites there that could be rezoned to high density residential. That would probably allow more housing than the mixed use zone would allow. It seems like that's, apartments are being built. And so having more sites available Seems like that would encourage more housing. There's other sites in the mixed use zone that when you look at them, you think these should be commercial. So we'll be bringing to you changes and we'll have to go through each one and we'll look at each site and say, okay, should this be high density residential? Should it be medium density residential? Should it be neighborhood commercial? Or I think in one case, it looks like maybe it should be regional commercial. So, and we've already talked to one major property owner on D Street that owns some mixed use that he's been trying to develop it for years and couldn't, hasn't been able to make it happen as mixed use. And he was very supportive. You said he called back. He was very supportive. So there's map changes. Looking at the development standards. One that I'd want to get your feedback on is looking at the site plan review process. Currently we bring major site plan reviews to you to review and be the final arbiter. The minor ones we do at the staff level, and we consider the threshold to be, with commercial at least, to be 20,000 square feet of building space or less between minor and major. A lot of cities have moved to having the staff do all site plan review. So what that would mean is if the use is completely allowed and doesn't need anything else, it doesn't need a parcel map, it doesn't need a use permit or anything, then it would stay at the staff level and it would never elevate to the planning commission. And that's one way of making it easier. There's some projects that we've done that only needed major site plan review, but because we had to bring it to you, then we had to do a CEQA document. So if we stay at the staff level, then it's only ministerial and does not need a CEQA document.
And legally you can do that. Like you don't have to bring it to the planning commission. That's something you can do.
If our ordinance says that that's how we do, if that's how we do site plan review,
you can do, okay.
then we can
I
do
get
it.
that.
So,
Okay.
so we'd be changing the ordinance to make it that way. Now, where you can still be involved in is because in order for us to make it ministerial and be all done at the staff level, we have to have development standards that we can apply to projects. We don't have the same discretion that you do in interpretation. The development standards need to be pretty clear. So you can be helping us look at the development standards. And so in a way, you're trying to forecast what is needed for standards instead of waiting until a development is put in front of you.
Normally, doesn't the planning commission approve like almost 100% of those anyways? The ones that you would normally bring to us.
I can't remember a site plan being denied. No.
Right, exactly. So, yeah. And that would speed it up because you're not putting it on an agenda and bringing it to us. And yeah. Okay.
For me, I think the biggest one is the CEQA document. There was a couple projects where I was like, developers spending $10,000-$15,000 on a CEQA document that they wouldn't need it if this was
So
a
it would
staff
save them
level
a lot
review.
of money. Yeah, I gotcha.
Home occupation permits. That's an interesting one. Christy and I have been talking about that. Christy deals with those all the time at the counter. People coming in, what can I do? What kind of business can I do at my home? And with the pandemic and more people working from home, working from home kind of sometimes leads to starting a business from home. And we think it's just going to increase. And so we want to look at ways of expanding it. The way it was taught to me, the purpose of home occupation permits is to make sure that a residential area stays residential. Now, is the activity that happens in a residential area in 2023 the same as what was happening in 1990? We have to decide how much protection do you want to give the residents? I know a lot of home occupation permits have a a standard condition about number of deliveries to the
Yeah.
home. Well, how many more deliveries do we have because of Amazon today that we didn't have before? So
Well,
you're even gonna notice.
Just a little more.
It's a little more, yeah. And nobody seems to complain. So that's one we'll be bringing you. We're gonna be looking at what other cities are doing, what kind of standards they're still putting on, which ones they've taken away. I think some of the biggest ones is, people that want to do music lessons for kids, or they're an accountant. I used to tell people, this was in a different city. I used to tell somebody who wanted to be an accountant and have their office in their house. I would have to tell them, well, you can have your office in your house, but if you meet with your client, you have to go to a restaurant or some public place to meet, because you can't come to the house. The client can't come to the house. And today I'm like, does that seem like that's still needed in 2023? I don't know. So, but those are the kind of questions to be thinking about when stuff like this comes up. What else is in here? Residential plot plans. That was something Christy really wanted, because it seems to be an issue with the developers have to do a plot plan for every new building permit, new home in a subdivision, like the home builder. And there seems to be a lot of confusion on getting it right the first time. And when they turn in 20 of them and they're all wrong, it's not fun. So having a standard one to say, here, do it like this. And so we're working on that. And again, that's the whole purpose, is to speed things up, make it easier, be more efficient in getting the houses built. Tiny homes. Want to hear what you think about that. Surprisingly, Fresno got a lot of credit for being one of the first cities to do a tiny home ordinance.
So when Fresno did it, are they just allowing residential parcels to have the tiny homes put there? Or did they set up certain areas? I know California City in the desert has plotted tiny home divisions.
Oh yeah. Well, they have a
If you've ever
lot
been
of
there,
vacant lots in California City.
I know, that's why they did it. They're trying to get something
They're doing,
over
yeah,
there.
that's probably smart for them.
Anybody has ever driven through there, you'll be like, what is
I've
going
looked at it on
on?
the map, and
So-
I'm like, that's crazy city.
Hopefully nobody from California City is going to watch the YouTube on this. Sorry.
That's where we had our dirt bikes.
Okay.
So it's always, I mean, it's these little things where people say, can I do this? Can I do that? And it's like, if we have standards, if we say, this is what you can do, this is where you cross the threshold and now you can't do it, or this is how you can do it. That's what makes life easier for all of us, and especially Christy at the counter. And then the SB 9 compliance, that was that strange one that said, yeah, we don't care what the zoning says.
Yeah.
If you want to build a second house and it fits, you can.
Yeah. So nobody in Lemoore has taken advantage of that.
Nope,
Wow.
not yet.
In Corcoran, yes.
Really?
Oh,
How-
yes.
How many?
Gosh, when I was there, I think we did 6 or 7
Wow.
right away. It was October of what year that it came out in the news that they were doing that. And we had it. And it was amazing because it was
2021.
always for my uncle. My uncle's going to move in. My uncle. I was like, there's a lot of homeless uncles out there. I was like, you don't have to lie. You can just tell me I
that's the
want to
thing,
build
is-
this.
Well, that's the whole point, is you don't have to lie anymore. You can
No,
do
you
it.
can just say
You
I'm
can do
building it. The problem we had though was giving it addresses. Is it A and B, or do we give it its own number? We had a problem with when the fire department shows up, they're not going to see the address in the back. So we always thought we would go with A and B meaning back, behind, anything like that. So that was the big thing we had. But
That's a good.
we had
question when you
one
talk to
lady,
fire about that.
she had to meet her setbacks on the side, 10 feet from the house. So she built this L in her backyard like this to go up the side and around the back. It was the skinniest house I ever saw, but it did meet the building code for 120 square feet for one room, 70 square feet for the bedroom. And I felt like the whole thing was a hallway, but it was, I finalized it right before I left there. So,
Interesting.
wow.
The part where I feel like we need to add some code is because it allows a lot split without discretionary approval. You don't
Yeah,
have
we
to,
never did that.
and so we need to add code that says, well, just because you don't have to go before the planning commission or the council, you still have to file a final map drawn by a surveyor.
Mm.
Because we need somebody to be able to go back someday and
Yeah.
survey that lot so they know where the property lines are. And I'm not surprised that whoever wrote the law forgot about putting that in. So if you have any comments on any of these, and if you guys want to call me sometime and talk about one of these, if you're thinking about it, you're thinking about planning when you're not here, right? So
Of course.
Every day.
if you want to call me, let's talk. Because we're still in the developing stage of how each of these would actually look in terms of ordinance changes or policy changes. But we want to get this done by this summer.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Moving on to the director's report.
So good evening, commissioners. Good evening, Nathan Olson, city manager. Just a few things. Helena Agribusiness is moving forward. We've got maps in place. So they should be getting to work out there by Leprino Foods. Mavericks Truck Stop is going through the sequel process. I believe Steve mentioned that earlier. So that's going out on Iona 19th. They will be resubmitting a new map for the project on 19th Avenue in Bush across there by the Best Buy. So that comes back, right? When I do a new map?
It would, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be coming back. And those are the three big ones. Am I missing anything, Christy? Oh, yes. So we had talked about that Olympic Training Center.
Mhm.
The FEMA grant did not get through.
Mhm.
So they were asking for 40 million through the FEMA organization for that. So looking at some plan B type things, but for now it's on a permanent hold. So yeah, that was all contingent upon the FEMA grant bringing through that 40 million. So that's it for my end. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nathan.
Just to follow up there, across from Best Buy, that's next to Dollar Store, between the Dallas Center and Bush Street. Is that the project you're talking about?
Yes.
And they're coming back again?
They're changing the site plan. When they showed us, it formally removed the restaurant and then reconfigured the car wash.
Mhm.
In terms of the noise issue, this new design.
Oh, so,
Okay.
so they did remove the restaurant though, huh? Oh, okay. Mhm.
But they're doing a parcel map too. Why, so they're gonna split the property there in between the convenience store and the car wash. But they also, the developer owns that last portion, and so they're actually moving the restaurant, so we're still looking at something.
Oh,
Reorganize.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's true. It's not eliminated. It's just gonna be somewhere else.
Oh, I got you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan. Okay, last item, commission reports or requests. Nothing from the commission? Well, that concludes our planning commission meeting. We'll adjourn at 6:56.